Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, this is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you yet again another anime favorites video segment right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly. As always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this month's anime favorites. And for the month of February, I decided to go ahead and dedicate this video to my fourth favorite anime and manga series of all time, and that is the InuYasha series. Now, as you all know, I'm going to go ahead and continue with the current format that I've been using for my anime favorites discussion, but I'm actually going to try and go ahead and just go about it a little bit quicker, at a little bit faster pace. Two reasons. Number one, because I don't want to make this video too long, but number two, because there's actually going to be a little rant at the end of this anime favorites video, and that rant is going to be addressing all of the InuYasha haters. So, with that said, also, wait a minute, also, for those of you all who follow my favorite hero, favorite villains video segments on Rogues Gallery Incorporated, I will also be discussing my favorite hero and my favorite villain from the InuYasha series all in this video. So now with that said, let's go ahead and let's jump into this video. Now, this review, video critique, whatever. Now, a brief summary of InuYasha. Okay, well, InuYasha, the anime, is based off of the manga series of the same name by Rumiko Takahashi. And essentially, the story, InuYasha follows the tale of Kagome Higurashi, who's a 15-year-old Japanese high school, or is it, no, she's in high school, yeah, high school student. And one day, she falls down this ancient well at her family's home, because she lives at the Higurashi shrine, and there is this sacred well that that has been passed down through their family along with the property for generations. And so she falls down the well, and she discovers that the well leads her into Warring States Japan, into feudal Japan. And once she arrives into feudal Japan, she discovers that, you know, the land is full of demons. And the first demon she encounters, was Lady Centipede. But the second demon she encounters, and the most prominent demon she encounters, is a half-breed named InuYasha. And what transpires between those two? First, they become kind of like this forced pair, kind of like, you know, the first few episodes of InuYasha is almost as if they're like they're kind of like cops who are assigned to each other. You see what I'm saying? They're like a fresh pair. They're kind of filling each other out. They fight a lot. They're not really on the same page a lot, but over time they wind up becoming good friends, and then later on in the series, a romantic relationship between them transpires. But anywho, now, what is the series? Where does the series take off by then? The main plot of the series is this. Kagome is in possession of what is called the Shikon Jewel. The Shikon Jewel, or the Jewel of Four Souls. It is a very sought after item in that time, in the world in which Kagome travels to, because what it does is it has the ability to amplify the power of a demon. It can make a demon stronger tenfold, and by doing so, many demons seek it out. It was believed that the Shikon Jewel was lost when it was burned with the body of Kikyo. Kikyo was a very powerful priestess, and she was the former guardian of the jewel. It is then that we discover that Kagome is in fact the reincarnation of Kikyo, and thus, by returning to the Warring States era, she also, in a way, she revives the Shikon Jewel. Now, how does that tie into the storyline with InuYasha? Well, InuYasha, like I said before, he is a half-breed. He's half human, half demon. And InuYasha has been asleep for 50 years because he stole the Shikon jewel from the shrine, and then he kept it away from Kikyo, and it was Kikyo, in fact, that put InuYasha under his sleeping spell. We later discover that there was also a relationship, a romantic relationship between InuYasha and Kikyo, and once the character of Kikyo is revised, what happens is a nice little romantic triangle is created between InuYasha, Kagome, and Kikyo. But throughout the course of the story, well, at the beginning of the story, what happens is that Kagome, she shatters the Shikon jewel, and then once the Shikon jewel is taken from her in an attempt to get it back, she shatters it with a sacred arrow, and the shards scatter across all of, feudal Japan. So in essence, the plot follows them along with their other friends, Moroku, who is a lecherous monk, Shippo, who's the son of a fox demon, Sango, who is a demon hunter. Along with them, they pretty much travel feudal Japan, recovering the sacred jewel shards. But that quest leads them into the conflict with the series' main antagonist, who is Naraku, who is, you know what? This summary is taking a lot longer than I thought. It's not as brief. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it there, because that, in essence, is what the story is about. Recovering the jewel shards, putting the Shikon jewel back together. At its core, that's what the plot's about. All this other shit that I was about to get into, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save that for the later discussions in this video. But now that I've gotten the brief summary out of the way, or the somewhat brief summary out of the way, favorite characters, my favorite heroes, and my favorite villains. Okay. My favorite hero in the InuYasha series is my man, Koga, leader of the Wolf Demon Tribe. And I'm going to tell you why I like Koga so fucking much, okay? Koga gets introduced in the series kind of as, essentially Koga gets introduced into the series as a rival of InuYasha. And I'm not just talking about fighting-wise. I'm also talking about as far as winning Kagome's affection. That is where Koga comes in. Because like I mentioned earlier, the thing about InuYasha has a lot of romantic triangles. Because like I said, you have the first one between InuYasha. You have the first one between InuYasha, Kagome, and Kikyo. And then you have the second one that's introduced between InuYasha, Naraku, and Kikyo. And Koga fits into the third romantic triangle with InuYasha, Kagome, and Koga. But when Koga was first introduced, Koga, like I said, he's the leader of the Wolf Demon Tribe, or at least he was the leader of one of the Wolf Demon Tribes. Because the Wolf Demon Tribes, there are multiple of them, each one by a cardinal point. And I believe Koga was the leader of the Western Tribe. But what happens is, when InuYasha and the rest of his gang get introduced into Koga, Koga is currently in this battle with another tribe, another clan, another group of demons called the Birds of Prey. And after Koga and his tribe are able to battle that enemy, they get slaughtered by Kagura, who is the first of Naraku's incarnations. And that is how Koga comes back into the series, because for all intents and purposes, I could see Koga just being a main character just for that little story arc with him and the Birds of Prey. But that's how they brought him back into the series, and that's how they incorporated him into the series throughout, was because Kagura was responsible for killing his tribe. It left only him and two of his companions alive, right? Kagura is Naraku's incarnation. She works for Naraku. Therefore, Koga's beef is not only with Kagura, but with Naraku. And since Naraku's the main antagonist, and that is who InuYasha and the rest of the party are after, then that's where Koga fits in. Now, Koga only officially teams up with InuYasha and his group when they are fighting Naraku or Kagura, when it's like this big battle where multiple fighters are needed. For the most part, though, Koga works alone, because at times he will even leave his two Wolf Tribe companions. So Koga prefers to work alone. he usually doesn't enter a battle unless there's some type of personal gain for him. For all intents and purposes, Koga is selfish. He is, and he is a douchebag. I do not deny that fact. Koga is a bit of a douchebag because, like I said, the whole lone wolf thing and the fact that he only engages in battles where he has some type of personal gain. He won't do it just to be a good guy. And then any battles where he doesn't have a personal gain, technically speaking, he still has a personal gain because he's trying to either save or trying to impress Kagome, who apparently is the object of his affection. Now, I will be the first to say, I don't understand the whole Koga Kagome thing. That didn't make much sense to me. But anyway, okay, so I'm pretty sure you guys are wondering, it's like, Larry, well, if this character is as much of a douchebag as you say he is, why do you like him? This is why I like him. Number one, he's a wolf, which is my favorite animal. Koga's a wolf, and he's a pure-blood demon. I dig that. Number two, Koga's power. Koga has 2 Shikon jewel shards in his legs, and he has 1 in his forearm. However, I believe he loses the 1 in his forearm, but he keeps the 1 in his legs. That allows him to travel very quickly. Like he has super speed out of the ass. And a lot of times when he uses his legs to fight, it's almost as if he has like a wind power behind it, because he does it at such a speed that, you know, it creates that type of power. Like I remember one episode, Koga used like a Chung-Li move where he was kicking so fast that it created a fucking like tornado coming off of his leg, which was pretty fucking cool. And I also remember a couple of episodes where like Koga could actually like fly, because he would like stomp the ground really, really fast, and then he'd jump off and it would like carry him through the air. So that's pretty fucking cool. Also, pretty much when I became a Koga fan was based off of this. This is InuYasha, a Feudal Fairy Tale. It's a 2D fighting game for PlayStation, for the first PlayStation. And I got this back in like 2003, like a year after the series came out on Adult Swim. Koga is my favorite fucking character to play with on this game. He is so fucking broken. Like I would spam Koga's little wind rush attack or whatever. I would spam the shit out of that, man. My sister hated me for it too, because me and my little sister used to play this all the time. She would hate me for that. I used to spam the fuck out of that move. But also, I mean, it's like I said, you know, Koga, he is an asshole. He is a prick. He is a bit of a douchebag. But that arrogance about him is a very appealing quality to that type of character. I mean, so many times in anime and manga, we'll run across characters like that, you know, where they're douchebags, or, you know, they're assholes, but they aren't very likable. And see, and that's where Koga's unique, because Koga, he is a douchebag, but he's likable. You like Koga. You at times even root for him, because that's that character's appeal. There's an attraction about him that makes that possible. And like I said, I've only seen that in very few characters of that fashion. Very few. Also, I love the way Koga and InuYasha, when they bicker with each other, I love the banter between them, because you have Koga, who's a pure-blood demon, and he's a wolf, and then you have InuYasha, who's a half-blood demon, and half of that is a dog demon. So Koga will always call InuYasha a mutt, and I love that. I fucking love that, because InuYasha will get so fucking mad, but he is a mutt. He is. He's a half-breed. He's a mutt. But just that idea of, you know, the wolf who, you know, for all intents and purposes, the wolf is like the prehistoric, you know, the mother of all canines, if you will, and then you have the dog who, you know, is the distant cousin. You know, that idea of, oh, you know, I was the pure blood and you're the, you know, the half blood. Yeah, you get where I'm going with that. Which actually is going to bring me to another one of my favorite characters. who is actually an anti-hero in the InuYasha series, and that is the character of Sesshomaru. Sesshomaru, who is InuYasha's older brother, who actually is a pure-blood dog demon. Sesshomaru, dude, that, okay, for any of you all who've seen my my Edward Elric video on Rogues Gallery, when I was talking about one of the things about Edward that I liked was the fact that he was this big brother character. I'm always intrigued by the older brother characters. Characters like Sesshomaru, characters like Itachi, characters like Byakuya Kuchiki. The older brother characters, where from Jump Street you are told that they are apparently so much more powerful than the main characters, and they have this mystique and this mysteriousness about them, and when you meet them they talk with such an authority and they carry themselves around with such an authority that they're very appealing characters. Sesshomaru is the earliest of characters like that. I mean, we've had those. I mean, let's face it. I've seen characters like that before. Raditz. It falls along the lines of the same type of character, except Raditz was taken out fairly easy and very swiftly at the beginning of DBZ. But they were building up Raditz for that type of thing. And I mean, so you know, we've seen that type of character before. But what I'm saying is, like, Sesshomaru is one of the earliest examples of that type of character I can remember being introduced to. And the thing I loved about Sesshomaru, it was his arrogance. Like, now, Sesshomaru, for a fact, is a prick. Sesshomaru's a douchebag from Jump Street. But I dig that about him. The arrogance about him is fucking awesome. And he says some really cold-hearted shit to InuYasha. I mean, like, I remember one of my favorite InuYasha, well, hands down my favorite InuYasha movie, also one of my favorite anime movies, is the third InuYasha, the movie 3, Sword of an Honorable Ruler, in which InuYasha and Sesshomaru are, they are, in a way, they're questing and they're fighting for their father's sword. And in the fight scene between InuYasha and Sesshomaru in that movie, Sesshomaru, the shit he tells InuYasha, that's some shit that would hurt somebody's soul. Like, he says, and I quote, I hate the fact that my father's blood runs through your veins, half-breed. Just some shit. That is some really cold-blooded shit. And I mean, and just throughout the series, the way when he would talk to InuYasha, you know, like in their first fight, look at Sesshomaru telling him, like, learn your place, half-breed. I was like, oh my god. I mean, Sesshomaru, dude, Sesshomaru's a fucking badass. I mean, dude, let's face it. When you first get introduced to Sesshomaru, he is a villain. And the first few encounters with InuYasha, he becomes a villain. I mean, he still is a villain. But, I mean, shoot, dude, Sesshomaru gets his arm cut off in the first fight. He loses that first fight. He's wounded for a long fucking time. He has to use all these petty replacements for a fucking right arm. And he's still a badass. He's still a badass. When Sesshomaru got fucking Tokijin, bad fucking ass. And oh my god, when he got the Baku Saiga, you want to talk about beast? Son. Yes. That's the definition of beast right there, boy. When he got that, ooh, Lord have mercy, Jesus. Anywho, so I know I'm making this video long as shit. That's the 20-minute mark right there. So let me go ahead and let me talk about my favorite villain, because I did mention Sesshomaru, but I mentioned Sesshomaru as more of an anti-hero. And the reason for that being, like I said, early in the series, he's introduced as a villain, but later on in the series, he does a lot of heroic things. So in a way, he's more of an anti-hero than a real villain. But my favorite villain, who is the main antagonist of the series, and he is actually my favorite anime villain of all time, and that's the villain of Naraku. And I'm going to tell you why I like Naraku so much, okay? Just a brief history about the character. Naraku originally was he was a bandit named Onigumo. And one night, Onigumo was severely injured. He was burned. And Kikyo, the priestess, she actually looked after him, took care of his wounds, that type of shit. And in the process, he became infatuated with her. I'm not going to say he was in love with her, but he definitely became infatuated with her. And after a while, what he did was he gave his body to a group of demons. And all those demons, after they consumed him, they kind of became one. They kind of like joined together, fused together, and they became Naraku. Naraku is responsible for setting up InuYasha and Kikyo against each other, because the whole little ploy he used was he disguised himself as InuYasha and tried to kill Kikyo, and then he disguised himself as Kikyo and tried to kill InuYasha. So InuYasha, thinking Kikyo, betrayed him, went and stole the Shikonju. Kikyo, thinking that InuYasha betrayed her and seeing that he actually stole the Shikonju, she went and tried to kill him. So he's responsible for that. And that's the driving force that leads InuYasha and his team against Naraku throughout the entire series. But Naraku is also in quest of the Shikonju. He is throughout the series, he is the character with the most shards, which means he's the most powerful. And it is him who, in fact, completes the Shikonju, makes it whole. But what I liked about Naraku, okay, first off, his English voice actor, who I believe it was Paul Dubson who was his English voice actor. I believe it was Paul Dubson. Or maybe Paul Dubson was the one who did Sesshomaru. I know the Dubson brothers are the ones who did, like, one did Sesshomaru and one did Naraku. So his English voice actor is fucking fantastic, phenomenal. But I like how clever Naraku is. You see, because one criticism that Naraku gets among a lot of anime fans is that he's cowardly. Oh, Naraku, he's a bitch, because he spends the first half of the series running away from InuYasha and them, and hiding and keeping himself hidden and in the shadows and concealed under a costume and all that type of shit. No, that's not why Naraku did that. Oh, well, okay, let me put it to you like this. Naraku was smart enough. Okay, I don't deny the fact that Naraku ran away. Naraku ran away from a lot of those fights. But you have to understand this. Naraku is smart enough to know when he cannot win a fight. Naraku was very, very clever in picking his fights. You can go back and you can watch the series. You pay attention to the manner in which a lot of those fights between InuYasha's team and Naraku's team were fought. Naraku knew if it was a fight he could win, he went all out in it. If he couldn't, he fucking withdrew the forces. He got the fuck up out of there. Why? Because, let's face it, at the end of the day, survival is more important than fucking pride. It is. I mean, why? Because pride can get you killed. You got to be intelligent about that shit, and that's what Naraku was. Naraku was very intelligent. He was very clever. And then, of course, like I said, that whole idea of that whole thing about, oh, Naraku, he ran away all the goddamn time. It's like, dude, that argument is completely irrelevant at this point in time. Why? Because that only happens for the first half of the series. You want to know what happens in the second half of the series? Naraku's chasing those motherfuckers. Naraku's chasing them. Naraku gets an upgrade about halfway through the fucking series. And after he gets that upgrade, he completely... oh, dude, the shit he does in the second half of that series is ridiculous. So that whole idea of like, oh, Naraku's a bitch, all he did was run. Dude, that's completely irrelevant at this point. Because he spends the whole second half poning the fuck out of people. The whole second half. So, get that shit out of here. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and let me jump into Okay, least favorite characters. Once again, this is another anime where I don't really have a least favorite character. Every character, for the most part, I liked because of the role they played and the purpose they served. That's another thing about InuYasha that I really enjoyed, was the fact that InuYasha had so many fucking characters, but none of them was useless. And I'm not gonna say any names about useless fucking characters, okay? Naruto. But when I'm Bleach. Oh shit, I think I'm coming down with something. Hold up, give me a minute. Cause there's a lot of anime nowadays that have a lot of fucking pointless fucking characters, alright? And, ooh, Naruto, Bleach, man, I think I'm coming down with something again. Alright, but InuYasha had a ton of fucking characters, and they all served some type of purpose. They all had a very specific role that they had to play. Even the filler characters had a role. So there aren't really any characters that I didn't like. If I had to pick least favorite characters, they would probably be what's your boy name? Was it I think it was Muso? Emoji or some shit like that. It was one of Naraku's incarnations. Looks exactly like Onigumo. Like he for the most part he's a human incarnation, but he has like demon powers, and he looks exactly like Onigumo. I didn't really care for that character too much. I didn't see the point in it, considering that we already knew Naraku was Onigumo. So the idea of him discarding his old self, I see where it plays into the literary narrative, but I don't think it was that necessary. I didn't really find it was that beneficial to the story. Yes, it played a role. Yes, it had a purpose, but because the main purpose for that was that it provided a lot of background information into Naraku, into Onigumo. That's actually one of the little arcs in which Naraku gets a lot of character development, was from that, because you find out about his past more so than you knew before. But like I said, I didn't think it was that beneficial. Okay, favorite story arc. Now here's the thing, InuYasha had like, they don't really have like sagas. They have like these really small story arcs, and there's a lot of them. So it's kind of hard to choose, you know, exactly like what point in time you want to. I mean, like the most notable story arcs are the longer ones, you know, like the Band of Seven. That's a story. That's one of the longer story arcs. What is it? Mount Hakare is one of the longer story arcs. The Princess Abi one. The Princess Abi one, that's a small story arc. Anyway, so you get the point I'm trying to say, is that it's kind of difficult to gauge story arcs. But if I had to pick one to be my favorite, it would be the Demon InuYasha story arc. The story arc from when Tetsaiga breaks. Pretty much from when Tetsaiga breaks and InuYasha first transforms into his demon form, and then to the point where Sesshomaru defeats InuYasha with Tokijin, and that's when you find out that, oh, you know, InuYasha, like, he needs the Tetsaiga in order to keep his demon form in check. But I would also include the little story arc in which Tetsaiga got put back together with InuYasha's fang, and when InuYasha had to master his own fang, which led him to fighting Ryukotse, who was their father's adversary, and then him learning the backlash wave. So that whole little arc, well, you know what? I'd call it the Broken Tetsaiga arc rather than the Demon InuYasha arc. But that whole little arc from when Tetsaiga broke to when InuYasha learned the backlash wave, that's probably my favorite story arc, because the story was really good in those arcs. The character development was really well done. The fights were fucking beats. That fight with Demon